listening to Xposed Living, Be Ageless, the podcast where we drop the masks, flip the script, and talk real life, real love, and real leadership unfiltered. I'm Stacey Van Thun, coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and founder of the Xposed Living movement that's redefining what it means to live, lead, and grow at any age. We talk identity, reinvention, belief, and freedom from the bedroom to the boardroom. Yes, we go there. This is not about staying young. This is about waking up. So if you're done with the shoulds and craving more fun, more freedom, more truth, more you, then grab your favorite drink, your bestie, maybe your journal. It's time. Let's get exposed. Welcome back to Xposed Living. I'm Stacey Van Thun, your host, and today's conversation is with someone who reminds us that sometimes life doesn't fall apart, it wakes us up. My guest today is Michelle Nielsen, founder of CoCreate Collective Canada, a platform dedicated to bringing people, places, and ideas together so meaningful collaborations and impact can emerge. Michelle's a mother of two, a connector at heart, and someone who has walked through a deeply personal journey over the past few years, navigating postpartum depression, health challenges, and ultimately a moment that forced her to look honestly at the life she was living. Today, she's helping create environments where people can come together, collaborate, and discover what becomes possible when the right people are in the right room. And that's a conversation we love having here. So Michelle, welcome to Xposed Living.
It's exciting. Things are happening fast, and it's interesting once you finally make that right decision to get into full alignment, how fast things are happening. Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago, I just spoke for my first time, like in front of people, and here I am.
Here you are. That's embracing it and going for it. We like to talk about we want to act before we're ready, do it now. And so, I think that there's a lot of people that know these things or we say them, but when the opportunity presents themselves, shy back. Michelle and I were talking prior to pressing record, and the alignment that we both have in our stories is pretty incredible considering we just met too. And let's start there, Michelle. You describe your journey as tragically beautiful. Can you share with us what you mean with that?
I think, it's kind of that double-edged sword where every journey is beautiful on its own, and some journeys are tragic on their own. But, I like to really embrace the duality of any situation. And being tragically beautiful is that I had to peel back a lot of layers, and I had to go deep into myself, and I had to really take a long, hard look many, many times and, meet myself in places where I didn't even know existed. Now, sometimes you get into some pretty dark places when you decide to take that journey, but not always on the other side of those dark places is something very beautiful. And, being able to see life unfold and in a way that truly fuels my soul, that's the beautiful part about it.
Makes it worth it. Michelle, can you bring people up to speed of like what happened in your life that made you realize it was time to reconnect with that spark you felt you had lost or that was slowly dimming?
Yeah. So, I was a stay-at-home mom for since 2020 after my second child was born. And of course, what was happening during that time. So that was interesting. With my firstborn, I was over the moon. I mean, I was obviously over the moon with my second too, but it was the situation was completely different.
Your second was born during COVID.
Yeah. He was actually, the hospital in Edmonton had been shut down, and he was the second baby born in that hospital after it reopened. So it was definitely different. I mean, putting both side by side, both my children, they're 22 months apart. And I mean, every child that's born, it's going to be different. And I feel like I got a lot of contrast there. And then after that, it was I had a newborn and just about 2-year-old, and we couldn't do anything. We couldn't go anywhere. It was very isolating. And their dad works out of town, so it was interesting. However, something that I definitely pride myself is making the best out of anything. And I suffered from postpartum, and because I was just so stressed, I was so stressed, that fear that everything was going on. He was born in August, and even the first Christmas, it's kind of one of those things where you'll never get it back, but at the same time, it happened and there's no sense in dwelling on it, right? And after that, the postpartum really kicked in. And one thing that did really help me though was my community of friends, and we were all going through it. We were all trying to figure out a way. So there were 6 of us. We started a workout program through text message, group chat. We kept each other accountable, and that's what honestly saved my life. Other than my children, that just goes to say that even if the situation's not ideal, people in your life, community, connection, and even if it is like can't see each other, but we can root each other on. It's so important. And that's, one of the biggest focus on my work now is showing that you don't have to do it alone. And it's hard for us to be vulnerable and say, I'm drowning. Like, I don't feel like myself. And then, for the next couple of years, everything was good. And then my kids didn't really need me as much anymore. And I thought, okay, like, what am I going to do? Who am I? I really was kind of like, okay, obviously my children are always going to need me, and I'm grateful for that. But it's a different level once they get to a certain age. And so I started really exploring a bunch of stuff, but nothing was really like calling me. And I just was really unhappy. I wasn't aligning with the people in my life anymore. We all had different opinions on a lot of thlike and it was one thing after another. It was just this thing like nagging at me, like, you need something better. Like you're like not better in a material way, but you need to feel that creativity and that passion. Where'd that go? Where did it go? And I found a letter from an old school teacher. I was going through spring cleaning, grasping at anything to try to make me feel better. And in handwriting at the bottom of it, she said, I know you're going to do great things, and I feel bad for anybody that's ever going to get in your way. And I'm like, where did she go? Where did that girl go? And that's what really, it was a big hit. Because I'm such a social person, and there was times where I didn't want to be around anybody. And I always wanted to be a hockey mom, My daughter was playing hockey. I even signed myself up to be on the team. I was a team fundraising coordinator when I was helping out with events. And it like made me reflect because I almost like dreaded going. And I'm like, what? Like this stuff used to light me up.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, what is going on? So it really caused me to take a real good look at, everything that was going on in my life. Like for me to not want to go and do the things, that's not me.
I love your vulnerability that you're sharing, Michelle. I think a lot of people in relationships, when kids come and we think, oh, life will be great. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have children. I can focus on those things that are important to me because we have values that are aligned with that. And then we get into this day-to-day life and we realize that what's going on? Like to your point, it's not that there is anything wrong. And I don't think it happens overnight,
No.
but you slowly are taking away things too that used to light you up because you only have so much capacity for things, and not recognizing how much those moments to be creative, to just let go of all responsibility and not feel guilty about it, made you feel.
Yeah.
And especially when you're compounding it with the time of the years that we were in 2020 and the isolation piece, and as well as coming off postpartum. So I thank you for sharing this, because a lot of people do that. And then to your point, they start saying, what's wrong with me?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What was one of the hardest truths you had to admit to yourself?
What I've learned over this past couple of years after I decided to, what I say, people think, blew my life up to
I
chase
love my
so much.
marriage.
No, either. I just knew something had to change. Yeah, but I started holding boundaries. And that's when I started getting a lot of resistance. And
Within yourself?
really, like, I've given everything and I can't get the bare minimum in return. And that's not to say it wasn't always like that. I hold a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation, but there's definitely some times where I'm just like, fuck you. Right? And, the thing is that I say that with a little bit of humor, because there's also a dark side of that too, when you get hung up on what things could be or should be, right? And I also noticed when I would get into those modes of like, well, they didn't help me, or I could have used a little bit more support or some reciprocity in this or anything above bare minimum, then there was that resentment. And when you start holding on to resentment or jealousy or shame, fear, you name it, it eats away at you. It absolutely eats away at you. And that's one thing that I really noticed, is that getting out of those toxic cycles, surround yourself with good people, because that's what's going to help you regulate your nervous system. And that's, at the time, I didn't know a lot about this. I've always been very interested in self development and self improvement, but over the last couple of years, in pursuit of getting that girl back, I've studied a lot of different things. I've tried all the things to see what works. You have to be really It's not an
Intentional?
easy journey, and that's why a lot of people they quit. They quit the journey because it's so hard. And
It's,
that's what they call like doing the work. And so when you're looking at
yeah.
yourself and you can identify that you don't think you're worthy, and like you're not capable, or people don't respect you, or all of these things, like, it sucks. But once you start identifying that it has nothing to do with you, that's when you can come out on the other side, and that you will find your people. And
Yeah.
eventually things are going to get a lot better. And that's tragically beautiful part too, right?
I love your story. I think a lot of people go through it and think when we're in these situations that we are able to see that there's other ways. Or you said get out of toxic relationships, but it sounds so logical. Of course I wouldn't be in a toxic relationship. Then you don't even realize it's some of the conversations that you're having with people, because they're all talking shit about something or not happy with their life, that those are actually what's keeping you stuck and what's continuing to almost make it a victim mentality.
Yeah, honestly. And it's not always sunshine and rainbows either, because I also went through what I call toxic positivity. I went through that stage too, where I'm like, life is great, I'm free, I can do whatever I want to. And I had a lot more freedom, because then I was with my kids 24/7, 365. And, like, for the times that I did get away, which wasn't very often, because I was a mom, and that was my life, right? That was expected to do, because I don't know if I do anything else. But I definitely, I went through a stage where I'm like, life is great, life is good, but I was still spinning the wheel. I wasn't getting anywhere. And so that's when I really started masking everything. I used to mask the bad things because I thought I had to uphold like a certain, appearance and a personality and, status of being the mom, the wife, all these things. And so I was constantly just layering layering on the masks and not being real. And, it's because I was like ashamed, like, I don't want anybody to know. Like, I don't want anybody to know this or that this happened And I also truly believe too is that you can't just continuously relive. But there's a fine line where it's okay to not be okay. But then there's
Now
also
what?
times where you're like, I just haven't had so much good in my life for so long that I'm not even gonna look at anything bad that could be happening. So I'm like, I'm just gonna live my best life. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of doing the opposite, but the same.
Your story resonates so closely to me. It's very funny when you say the masks. This is how I felt too, is that it was literally an unlayering. In fact, this is how Xposed came about, because I was exposing more of myself. I always say it was like, even like climbing a mountain. You think you're at the top and you get to the top, you're like, damn, there's more. And for both sides, like you said, right? Because when someone said to me, well, just be your authentic self, Stacey. I thought to myself, who the hell is she? She's been this way to hold her marriage together, this way to hold it together while her marriage is not happy at work, this way to appear for her kids, this way to appear for her friends, this way for her family. Because to your point, I think that we have these beliefs, especially when we're strong, confident women, that to ask for something is a sign of weakness. And I think this goes back to your full circle, then why you probably feel so passionately about the connection is it's not weak to ask for help. It's actually one of the strongest things we can do. But in the meantime, we pick up and go, pick up and go, pick up and go. So every time I picked up and go, I didn't purposely put a mask on, but I never dealt with what was going on then to choose differently.
Yeah. I absolutely relate with that so deeply. Done some of my best personal growth through writing, and it's actually all about getting back to your true roots, not your ancestral roots, your family name, your place where you came from, but like your roots inside. It was extremely healing. I literally am living proof of this, this stuff I've been writing about. It all comes down to nervous system regulation and being able to be your authentic self and, be able to live truly to you. And then honestly, in turn, you end up attracting the people that are for you.
Well, you were talking earlier, you got to this point, I think, of like pouring from an empty cup. There's nothing left for yourself. And when we get to that point, it does become resentful because we're expecting somebody other than ourselves to fill it for us, not recognizing that job is for us. And I know that feel of resentment. We were talking earlier, and when we both have been, Michelle and I, through divorces, and how we were almost expecting our partners to help us in certain situations, like they should know what to do, but never really asking, and then getting resentful about it that they weren't helping.
Right.
Is why I think these conversations are so important to have, because we weren't these things. Like, it was wait till it flows before you have this conversation. Yet this is why it's so important. When we're leading people, we have quarterly performance check-ins. How are you doing? Are we still aligned? Do we still have the goals? Are we, like, we never do this in relationships with the people that matter the most.
Right? Yeah.
And when you add kids into lives, especially when they're young, like, things change so quickly.
Oh yeah.
So, like, one day you do need to be this person, one day you don't. And we're not really giving those updates. And if our partner lives away and then they come back in, they don't even know where they fit in. We don't know where they fit in, but we just know we need help.
Yes, I know. Literally, it got to a point where, my ex-husband would come home and I'd be like, is there anything that you want to do on your days off? And of course, this was during the winter like towards the end. And he's like, no, like, cause he was happy to come. He hadn't been home, right? Like he wanted to be at home. He wanted to spend time with the family and the kids and everything. And I'm like, okay, well, I can do this and this and this.
That's right.
So let's get away faster. Like, cause I'm just like, let me out of this cage. And like, it was just so much as like going to the grocery store. Like the joke always used to be like, I'd go to get milk and it'd be 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. This is when my shopping sprees really went up. I honestly would always see the wrestling match where like it was like, tag, you're in, I'm out. But then what does that do to us as a relationship, right?
It's not.
No.
And we're not,
Yeah.
we're not meant to do things alone. And that's a big thing that I've been really focusing on is coming back to that like village mentality, building community, building, finding your people. And honestly, I've really stepped into that. And that's my gift, right? Is bringing people together and creating those environments where people can come and be their authentic selves. And that's healing. Like doing that for others is healing for me because that's what I love. Like I love Simon Sinek, where he says, like, how dare you not give me the privilege of helping you? And so, but the thing is that I've always felt that way. But I was one of those people who would not practice what I preached. Right?
Hey, I mean, I think that we get to a point, the opposite is true. Who are you not to share your gifts with people? We get caught up into this other thing of, well, I've got to fill this role and this role. And to do that again would be selfish. So I love what you're creating here. And I want to ask you then, tell us about CoCreate Collective. What is it? And, how can people get involved?
I attempted a few different avenues, as I always do. I like to take the scenic route in a lot of places.
That's all good.
Figuratively and metaphorically. You never know. I'm a very curious person. But I spent the last couple of years trying to find my place, trying to find where it makes sense for me to put my passions and my gifts into the world, and how can I do that in a way that supports me and my family and in turn the collective. So I've been here at Lakeview Lodge for the last year and a half and helping out here. And Cindy, the owner, she's an amazing mentor, and I'm very, very grateful for her presence in my life. And I finally figured it out. So I finally figured it out. I launched CoCreate Collective just at the beginning of the year, and it's I do have direct partnership here, so I'm able to bring people together and create some amazing experiences. If you have a vision or if you have an idea, a workshop, a talk, a retreat, a 1 day, 2 day, 7 day type of thing, bring it to me because I love to take care of the details, and I love being, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Right. And a lot of people, and I was kind of on the other side of things where I thought, I was going to be the host of the events. I'm meant to produce them, not host them. I mean, there's people often think it's the same, but it's not, because I don't believe I'm meant to be the one leading and facilitating all the time. I want to help others be able to show up and do what they are truly meant to do. And that in turn allows me to do what I'm meant to do.
So we're putting it out here right now. I am reaching out to Michelle and getting getting her to help me with planning my first retreat. So you'll all be the first people to know about it. We will. We are. Not. We will. We are. Like this will be done by June.
Yeah.
This is amazing. For someone listening who feels, Michelle, like they've lost their spark, what's the first step back that you would recommend for themselves to get back to themselves?
Support. Find your person, one or two people, and just grace. Give yourself grace and know that it is okay to not be okay. But if you can take that one step, I honestly taking one step at a time and doing something that puts you outside of your comfort zone is where you're going to find your best growth.
Shifts it. All right, Michelle. On Xposed Living, we do a little rapid fire exposed ageless questions. You ready for some?
Absolutely. Okay,
Let's
do it.
get to know Michelle a little more. All right. Coffee or wine?
Coffee.
She's like, what time is it?
Yeah, no, I mean, coffee in the morning, wine at night.
Oh, there we go. Morning person or night owl?
Morning and at night.
A song that instantly lifts you. Do you have a
For some
go-to
reason,
song?
I'm Walking on Sunshine is coming to mind, but that's not
Hey.
it. But okay.
What's one thing motherhood has taught you about yourself?
I am enough. Yeah.
What's a small moment that fills your cup right now?
Being out in nature and just having great conversations and just connecting with people.
Something people would be surprised to know about you.
I'm from Nova Scotia originally, so I'm actually an East Coaster.
An East Coaster. And when did you move to Alberta?
In 98.
Which is worse, winter there or winter here?
I'd say there because it's just so much like damp and windy.
You see, we've got some good things about winter. It's dry. We can dress for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What's the piece of advice that you were given that you always remember?
You can do anything. Yeah. Like my dad, he always used to say, you can do anything you ever want.
If your daughter asked you what courage looks like, what would you say?
Getting curious and doing something that makes you feel super uncomfortable.
Embrace the discomfort. What does community mean to you in one sentence?
Community to me would mean gathering, support, empowering each other, coming together, like-minded people, sharing, ideas, sharing experiences, sharing your feelings.
Michelle, if people want to know more about your story and or get involved with CoCreate Collective, how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to CoCreateCollective.ca or they can reach out on Instagram. My handle is Michelle CoCreate Co. I had to think about that for a minute.
I'll make sure that all of Michelle's contact information is in the show notes. So if you're listening to this and it's resonating with you, it's not by accident, make sure you reach out, check out the show notes. And Michelle, before we end off, I always ask people, what does living exposed mean to you at this stage in your life?
Freedom.
Mic drop.
Yeah.
Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your story so openly today. Your journey is such a powerful reminder that sometimes the moments that feel like everything is falling apart are actually the moments where we finally start coming back to ourselves. And I love the work you're doing through CoCreate Collective, creating spaces where people can reconnect, collaborate, discover what becomes possible when the right people come together. Listen, we live in a world that is more connected than ever, and yet has the highest amount of times where people feel alone. We've been there. I hope today gives you courage to reach out to a friend, reach out to myself, reach out to Michelle. Often that spark we're searching for, it's not gone. It's just waiting for us to give it permission to come back.
Yeah. You just need to get it ignited again.
So we'll fan it for you. Yeah. So until next time, stay exposed, be brave. I'm Stacey Van Thun with Xposed Living. And remember, the edge isn't the end. It's the beginning. Thanks, Michelle.
That's it for today's episode of Xposed Living, Be Ageless. But this is just the beginning. If this episode made you feel something, share it. Tag me. Send it to a friend. Let's start the conversation we can be having all along. No shame, no guilt. Unfiltered, raw, real, exposed. And if you're ready to go deeper, join us inside the Xposed Living Facebook community, where we take this work off the podcast and into real life. Know this, your change starts when your excuses die. Because this life, this one wild, ageless, unforgettable life is waiting on you. This is your time. This is your truth. This is Xposed Living.